in. Thank you so much for those who send them in ahead of time. I will make sure to answer as many of those as I can today. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat below. If they are simple enough for me to answer live on social media, I will. If not, and your question does not get answered, just go ahead and send me a private message, because sometimes, you know, asking one question that might need a lot of back and forth, some questions back to know kind of what's happening with your cycle, makes things harder to answer. So, because it's not one, you guys aren't one size fits all. You're a human being. All right. So let's jump right in. Okay, so here's a couple questions that I got in preparation that you guys sent in. What are my thoughts on laparoscopy? I'm kind of the mind that the more information, the better. There's some cases where that's definitely going to be needed to take a look-see and know what's happening. So, you know, I'm not like hardcore anti anything that is medical. So sometimes in some cases that's going to be a huge help for people. In other cases, you kind of have to make the decision for yourself which route you want to go. So those types of decisions I definitely cannot make for you. But it's not black and white, right? What are my tips on helping the process of implantation? I got a lot of questions this week about implantation, helping to increase the chances of implantation. And I think this is a really good question, because this is kind of one of those hidden events, you know, that's happening. And it's like, a lot of times we're focused a lot on ovulation for good reason, or on different hormonal health for good reason. But this is one of those little magical moments that I think is also extremely important. So when it comes to implantation, a lot of people message me thinking I'm going to say to eat a certain amount of pineapple on this date of your cycle or something like that. And the way that I approach it is all of the work that is done to help prepare and help make your uterine lining healthy and receptive for implantation will be done well before that period of time. So I'm all about preparing well ahead of time, part of a program that you're doing for a couple of months, so that each cycle your uterine lining is as healthy as possible, so that when that time comes, you're basically just sitting back, relaxing, and watching some comedies. Because I did read a study about clowns coming into the room after transfer increase the chances of implantation. So comedies could be an answer, watching a comedy. Coming to America too. Good suggestion, great comedy. One of my favorite movies was Coming to America. You can tell how old I am now because of how much I used to love that movie. And I rewatched it in preparation for the new one that was coming. And I was like, oh my gosh, the things that we used to not be offended by, that now I'm like, oh my gosh, if a new movie came out and did a lot of those things, people would be in an uproar. Anyways, such a side topic. So a couple of things when it comes to implantation. So yes, preparation is going to be key. So what does that mean? So that means diet's going to have a big impact. Healthy circulation is going to have a big impact. Healthy estrogen levels, because estrogen is what stimulates the growth of the uterine lining the first half of your cycle. So having healthy and balanced estrogen levels. If you have way too much estrogen, that's going to be a whole nother factor. If you don't have enough estrogen, that's going to also be another factor of having like depletion or not, you know, a plump, healthy lining. Circulation plays a really big role in this. Increasing circulation with self-care practices like self-fertility massage, castor packs, getting exercise daily, and then also eating protein the first half of your cycle, kind of really being, I think you should be aware of your protein every part of your cycle, but really those first 2 weeks, because your body is using what you're eating to build the materials that it's building your uterine lining out of, and everything else in your body. Your body is not pulling these things from the air. Well, oxygen actually is being pulled from there, but all the other compounds, all the amino acids, all those other things that are needed to build things in the body are coming from nutrition, is my point. So there's a lot of different factors. Another thing to think about is reducing inflammation as much as you can in the body is going to be very beneficial, because you want a very calm and receptive and non-irritated place for implantation. So those are some tips on preparing for implantation. Nothing that I can be really of help in the moment. This is, again, all preparation. But when you're working with natural therapies and natural programs, if you happen to be doing one of mine, you're covering a lot of these bases as it is. What diet and exercise to use to ovulate naturally? So there's really not... that's a really big question. It sounds like a simple question, but it's not. So there's a lot of different reasons someone might not be ovulating. So when it comes to like exercise, sure, if you're someone who's experiencing some hormonal issues and weight is playing a factor, then exercise could have an impact in a roundabout way, but there's not a specific exercise necessarily to do that's going to impact ovulation. Ovulation is going to all be based on hormonal balance, nutritional deficiencies. So there's a lot of different factors that can play into it. There's not just one reason someone's not ovulating. So that's where I kind of would point you to my 5 pillars of fertility health. If you were not able to attend that class, send me a private message. I can send you a link to the replay, but I talk about the 5 pillars that are needed for hormonal health and fertility health. And it's not just a pill, it's a lifestyle that is supporting the endocrine system, supporting the reproductive system, so everything's able to function as it's designed. So we're removing a lot of these factors that are causing these issues and causing hormonal imbalance and so on. Can I take Mach and Vitex together? Yes, you can. Ways to raise low AMH. Okay, those are all, there was a lot more questions that came in, but most of them were a little bit too technical for me to answer in this setting. But ways to raise low AMH, again, I approach that with a 5 pillars approach. So when someone gets like AMH levels or FSH levels back, they tend to become pretty obsessed about those numbers. And I can understand because of what they mean, it can be a little bit overwhelming. But Roni, don't put your email on there. Send me a private message because other people get your email. AMH. So I approach this in a way that's going to help support the body, the ovaries, reproductive system, increasing circulation, all these different things, because there's all these factors that contribute to healthy ovaries. There's all of these factors that are contribute to healthy hormone production. On the other hand, if someone has started menopause and it's true menopause, there's nothing natural we can do to turn it back. But if this is due to a lifestyle factor, to something that helping to support the body is going to balance it out, then we can definitely have a positive effect. All right, so if you guys have any questions, you can put them in the comments below. I just started with ones that people sent in ahead of time. Hello. Hey, Astrid. We're going to be talking soon. What's a good range of TSH when trying to conceive? So there's a lot to thyroid health. Generally, under 1 is going to be what is kind of the current consensus on what a TSH level should be. But there's also other factors like T3, T4, antibodies. So getting a full panel when you do get your thyroid tested is a good idea. Also, when you're getting hormone testing done, make sure that they include your thyroid. That's something that I have to kind of request a lot of times. Dawn, I'm not sure. IgE? I'm not sure what that means off the top of my head. Is there a way to monitor estrogen levels at home or on our own? So Breezy, I know there's a lot of people who do. They'll do it through like urine testing. I think in Myra, there's a Myra monitor. But the way that, and I that is helpful, but what I'm finding is that people end up hyper-focusing day to day on their cycles. When you're trying to make changes naturally, they're going to take time. So when you're really looking at like, okay, I did this thing for 3 days and my estrogen levels changed on this P test that I did, I'm going to freak out. That's really not going to be a productive way to go about it. Natural therapies take time. A lot of times it feels like you're going 2 steps backwards and then 1 step forward. So you really do have to be patient in order to kind of make the progress that needs to happen. So I'm not a big proponent of constantly testing hormone levels throughout the month to see where you're going, where you're fluctuating, because you really do need to have an understanding of how the hormones are fluctuating throughout the month. They do not stay static. I like to go by different signs that the body's giving off, like what the cycle is, what's happening within the cycle. Is there spotting? Is there sore breasts? What's the period like? A lot of different things that the body is saying gives us a lot of feedback on what the hormonal landscape is. So that's more how I approach it. So I'm not going to be your go-to person for home monitoring of hormone levels. Someone might else, there's so many different fertility teachers out there. Someone else that might be like the way they do it. That's just not my way. So I'm not the best person to ask. Are low temperatures during the follicular phase okay if thyroids are normal? So it just depends on what you mean by low. We're looking more for pattern. There is a low, there's some people who are chronically low in temperature. Their thyroid test came back, but their hands and feet are always cold. They are experiencing hair loss. They're brain foggy. I go by what the body is saying, not some test. I'm going to go on a little rant here, sorry guys, but not some test that's taking a range of people and making a range and saying, okay, now you're supposed to fall within this range of these other people that we've decided this test range is for, but you still feel like crap, right? Okay, no, I'm going to listen to you and be like, you still feel like crap, let's do something about it. So rant over. Sorry, I work with so many women that things come back fine or it's unexplained, and it's just like, no, they haven't gotten pregnant for three years. Like, there's something going on, or they still have brain fog, they still have, their hair, all these different things. And it's like, no, there's still something happening here, regardless of what your test says. All right. Can an HSG cause infection, pain after a couple weeks after? I would talk with your doctor about that. I don't know. Had an oops 2 days before ovulation while doing the fertility cleanse. What are the risks of ending up getting pregnant? So when you're doing the fertility cleanse, we suggest to not have baby making intercourse during the cleanse, just because while you're doing the cleanse, those aren't herbs that are pregnancy herbs, right? They're cleansing herbs. They're causing a lot of increase in circulation, those types of things. Now, the reason that we insist on that, we talk about that, is because there's never going to be a study done on doing a fertility cleanse while you're pregnant. There's just none that will happen. Most supplements will never be tested on pregnant people because that's unethical. So the chance of something happening is extremely, extremely, extremely low. But I'm working with you guys through the internet. You're doing these things with self-empowered knowledge. You're doing these things on your own. So during that time of cleansing, I always suggest to not be trying to actively conceive, so that you can do the cleanse, you can complete the cleanse and get the best benefits from it without stressing out that you might be pregnant. Now, to understand that implantation is not going to be occurring until 10, 12 days after ovulation, right? And still at that point, the embryo is not reliant on your blood or is exposed to nutrients being served from you to it. So the chance of it having something or getting something or absorbing something is going to be very minimal. Okay, so just understanding how long it actually takes to be exposed to the environment within your body and starting to take from you. But again, the greatest effects are from consistent use and being able to do the full thing. So that's my 2 cents on that. Okay, let's go over here. All right. Is Zumba too intensive an exercise in the 2-week wait? I don't think so, Sharon. I don't think that generally, unless you have like some known issue that would impact it. I think regular movement, regular life during 2-week wait is totally something great to do. Zumba, like having fun, all of that. I don't think you have to put your life on hold. It's not like you have to stay still and sit on the couch for the next 2 weeks. Having exercise, healthy blood circulation is all great. Why am I having abdomen and pelvic pain after period? I have no idea. How do I know when I'm ovulating if I do not see a period? So you would start to chart your cycle. You would just start with whatever day you're on, and you would start looking for a pattern. There are people who ovulate without a period, but not having a period is definitely something to kind of work towards, because that's more what's happening with uterine lining and estrogen levels. So if you're not having a period, more chances than not, there's some type of hormonal thing that's happening, and then ovulation more times than not is being affected. But you would just fertility chart, take your temperature every single morning, go to fertilityfriend.com. They'll teach you how to do it for free. And then you can kind of tell where you are. Can you use castor oil packs during stimulated IVF cycles? Before ovulation. Once you start any type of medical stimulation for IVF or IUI, I do not suggest doing any type of self-fertility massage or castor oil packs, because you generally are really uncomfortable, because you have a lot of follicles, you have a lot of eggs compared to like what you would do in a normal cycle. They're hyper stimulating you, and generally you're walking around with like a bunch of grapes. And so you don't want to be stimulating that. You don't want to be causing any more discomfort. I would do all of these things in preparation. And then once you get your baseline and start your meds, it's kind of like you're on that train, and just focus on that train. Have I ever heard of having early pregnancy symptoms but getting negative test results? For example, night sweats and ovulation pains and abdomen. Oh, yes, yes. Those aren't pregnancy symptoms. Those are hormonal fluctuations that happen in the body. That happens with women all the time, even when they're not pregnant, when there's some type of hormonal imbalance. And they generally happen during the 2-week wait. They generally happen the week before the period. The night sweats, sore breasts, spotting, those different types of things will generally happen at that point. I feel calm in my reproductive system. Is that normal? I'm not sure what that means. How to avoid miscarriage. So the thing with miscarriage is there's a lot of different reasons that someone's miscarrying. So if you've had previous miscarriages, you could start with getting some testing done, getting thyroid done, getting tested for MTHFR. You can get testing done for immunological responses. You have to see a different specialist probably to get that testing done, and also getting your progesterone levels tested. So there's a lot of different reasons. Women with PCOS have higher rates of miscarriage, endometriosis, when your thyroid levels aren't being taken care of, if you have Hashimoto's, MTHFR, there's a lot of different reasons. So, and sometimes you're just having a miscarriage because that's part of kind of what happens with when, it's not a viable embryo. So the body, it's part of nature as well that take care of that. Sometimes it can be egg health. So there's a lot of different factors to explore when that's happened. If you've had, generally how it is here in the States is they wait for you to have 3 before they'll do testing. So depending on your age, you can definitely obviously insist for testing a lot sooner, especially for all those factors. How long should a person wait after IUD removal to do a fertility cleanse? So I would just do it the next period, after the next full period. I thought a heavy period is normal. I think it just depends on what your definition of heavy is. So one person's heavy is going to be different than another person's heavy. So a lot of times heavy is something that we're kind of working on, but I'd have to ask you a lot of questions to figure that. Is there blue in my hair? No, there is not. That is one of my lights shining off of my hair, but that would be super cool. No, I don't have blue. Oh no, it's actually the Colorado. I think it's the sky. Anyways, can breastfeeding affect TSH levels? That's a good question. I don't know. I know that pregnancy definitely affects TSH levels. I don't know if breastfeeding would. I'm assuming they probably would have to be healthy because it's such a major part of the hormonal system. Cool. All right, so if you guys have any other questions, you can put them in the comments. If not, we'll go ahead and hop off here in a minute. Can you explain where I can find out about the fertility cleanse you speak of? So you can go to naturalfertilityinfo.com and you can just do a search for fertility cleanse. There's tons of videos, tons of guides. You can download the fertility cleanse guide. It goes into all of that. And I have lots of Q&As that you can read there. What can I do to regulate a period? My cycles are super irregular. So I'd have to ask you questions about that. There's a lot of different reasons that can be happening. I would need to know kind of how long is your period, how long is your cycle, those types of things. So that's not a black and white answer, but generally that's going to be hormone related. So we'd have to be like, could you possibly be experiencing some type of insulin resistance? What are some of the reasons that it could be happening? Are there nutritional deficiencies happening? So yeah. Scanty periods. Again, that's going to be the same answer that I just gave for the irregular period. A lot of times when there's like a really short period or it's very, very light, it's like 2 days long, 1 day's full spotting, then I generally look at building the system up because that tends to be a sign of like low hormone production or possible nutritional deficiencies or circulation or those types of things. So we want to build up, whereas someone has a very, very thick, very hard cycle, lots of clotting, those types of things, then we're wanting to help the body to deal with excess of hormones and helping, with fiber and with the body getting rid of excess estrogen. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that you found this helpful. You can find more information at naturalfertilityinfo.com, naturalfertilityshop.com, and you can also find me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I have a private community on Facebook called Your Natural Fertility with Heather Rodriguez. If you want to join that community, it is open to everyone, but it is private, so you have to ask to join. And yeah, so I will see you guys around. Have a great